Hey there everybody, it's been a really long time. Bullshit has happened in the intervening time and I don't want to go into detail about it, but yeah. Let's just say life can throw big hurdles at you sometimes. But I'm finally back, I got some motivation to do a few more videos, so yeah. And for Local Profiling Episode 8, we're going to be talking about the one, the only, number 490, from the Great Eastern Railway. April Fools! I just had to. It was served on a silver platter. Yeah, honest opinion, I don't have much positive to say about Chesapeake and Ohio 490. Like, it had two different looks, but they're both bad. Like, you had an admittedly user-friendly Pacific on one side, but it looked ugly as fuck to me. And then you have America's only preserved streamlined Hudson that sadly looked like it was the inspiration for the minions of the Despicable Me movies, with the side effect of having some truly horrendous valve gear to work on. Franklin Type A poppet valve gear, which is like a gigantic clusterfuck of linkages and hinges stuffed within the frame, so it's finicky as all hell. So, no, we're going to completely ignore the Chesapeake and Ohio 490, and instead, for Local Profiling Episode 8, we're going to be talking about Great Eastern, number 490. So, yeah, it's an April Fool's joke, but at least you're still getting an actual good episode out of it. So, enjoy, and please don't kill me. This number 490 was part of the Great Eastern Railway's T26 class of 240 locomotives. They were introduced in 1891 by James Holden, and by the time that production had ceased in 1902, 100 of them had been built, all of them by the Great Eastern themselves at Stratford Works in London, most of which were numbered 417 through 506, so that's 90 of them, with the remaining 10 being numbered 1250 through 1259. In 1923, when the Great Eastern Railway was absorbed into the London and North Eastern Railway as part of the Big Four grouping, the T26s were reclassified as E4s. They were pretty modest locomotives with a tractive effort of 12,863 pounds, provided by a pair of 17.5 by 24-inch cylinders, 68-inch diameter driving wheels, and a boiler pressure of 140 pounds per square inch. Later in their careers, though, the tractive effort was raised to 14,700 pounds, thanks to an increased boiler pressure of 160 pounds per square inch. Due to being Great Eastern engines, they were fitted with air brakes rather than vacuum brakes. But the T26s actually had both braking systems, so they could be used for pulling trains on other railways too. Speaking of their careers, they were basically designed as pretty good and highly versatile mixed traffic engines for the time. But due to their very good amount of flexibility, as in, versatility that is, they became known as intermediates. As for number 490, she was built in 1895, and throughout her career she has actually been shuffled around quite a few different motive-powered depots, or depots, however you want to pronounce that word. But she has operated out of Norwich, Cambridge, Bury St Edmunds, and Hitchin throughout the course of her career. In fact, she seemed to be quite popular around Cambridge, as she was stationed there not once, not twice, but 4 times. The engine had also been renumbered quite often. Like I said, she was built in 1895 as Great Eastern number 490. In 1923, she was renumbered to LNER 7490. Then in 1942, she became number 7802. Then in 1946, 2785, before becoming British Railways E2785 in 1948, and finally, number 62785 in 1951. In case you're wondering why the E, it was to assign her to a particular region of British Railways at the time, the Eastern region. As good as the T26s were, however, or E4s, however you want to call them, by the time of the Big Four grouping back in 1923, a different breed of Great Eastern locomotives, the Claude Hamilton 440s, were actually starting to displace them on passenger assignments. By the time that British Railways came into existence in 1948, there were only 18 of the T26s still in service. But number 490, by this point having become 62785, has proven to be the most popular of the lot. Not only was she the final member of the class to be retired in 1959, some of her final duties were hauling special passenger trains on mini rail tours chartered by the Cambridge University Railway Club, specifically for themselves. These mini rail tours took place on the old Mildenhall branch and the Kelvedon and Tollsbury Light Railway. After that, the engine was retired in 1959 and earmarked for preservation when she was passed into the National Collection, though she didn't go to the National Railway Museum in York. Instead, number 490 got repainted back into her Great Eastern Royal Blue livery, if she had it in the first place, that is. If not, then there you go, now she was in it. But instead of going to the National Railway Museum in York, she went to one of their outposts, Bressingham Steam Museum in Norfolk, where the locomotive sits on static display to this very day. I mean, it's a good thing that she's preserved, because it's a nice little locomotive, but it also brings the rather sad bit of news that she hasn't turned a wheel under her own steam in preservation, because when she did those mini rail tours, she was still in active service, and chances are very likely that she won't be rebuilt to operational condition anytime soon, if at all. Because hey, we don't know what the mechanical shape of her is, or at least I don't know what kind of mechanical shape she's in. But at least she's still around, and hopefully more people will actually come to learn about this little engine, because it is certainly quite underrated. And that's a shame, because it's a neat little locomotive, wouldn't you agree? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little prank, and more importantly that you enjoyed this episode despite doing something different that I initially promised and actually turned out to do. But hey, at least you still got a decent episode out of it. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody, and have a good day. Also, one of those mini rail tours was called the Brake Van Special, because she didn't pull any passenger carriages, but brake vans. That is all.